NFL Week 4 waiver wire targets. That's what we're talking about today. Going to be short and sweet. It's my girlfriend's birthday, so going to hang out with her once we bang out this video. So yeah, usually these waiver wire videos more for your deeper leagues. Not gonna have players like pick up Josh Allen or pick up the Jets defense. So at quarterback, Justin Fields. Fields, I think the big games should come. What I really like about him is he has a good schedule of Colts, Cowboys, Raiders. Could see him running a lot in these games. You need him to rush for 1 or 2 touchdowns usually, and he's got a good chance of that. Andy Dalton, he went out and passed for 300-plus yards and 3 touchdowns. If you're real desperate at quarterback, I think you could do worse to see if that's real or not. He does get Cincinnati, who just got eviscerated by Jaden Daniels. So Dalton got good pass game weapons. If you're desperate at quarterback, why not? Drake May. If you want to get in on the Drake May experience, I think this is the week you get him. He's going to run the ball. He's going to throw the rock. They play the 49ers this week, but the following week they get Miami, and I think that could be the first week we see Drake May starting. And, when a lot of quarterbacks are disappointing, if Drake May's chipping in 40 yards on the ground, a rushing touchdown, could be fantasy viable from the jump. Running back. Cam Akers, wrote about him last week, but just operating as the default Texans running back, needs to be owned everywhere. Emanuel Wilson, he's the Packers RB2 until Marshawn Lloyd is healthy and maybe even after. Scored a touchdown. He had 12 carries this past week. So they shared the workload with Josh Jacobs this past week, was involved in the passing game. Definitely worth a stash. Roshan Johnson, he had 8 carries and 4 catches in his first game active this year. I won't be surprised if he takes Swift's job. Won't be surprised if he passes Khalil Herbert. I think he got banged up in training camp and hurt his foot, so that's why we haven't seen him. Travis Homer's on IR, so Roshan should trend up. He's got a little David Montgomery to his game. He's a good pass protector. The Bears seem like they want to pass a lot, so these are the type of traits that get you on the field, and he's going to catch balls, so needs to be owned. And then Tyler Beatty, he had 9 carries for 70 yards on the Broncos, and Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin continue to be inefficient. I think he's worth stashing and seeing how it sorts out. People were excited about him as an undrafted free agent. I remember hearing about him. And I mean, we saw it this past week, 9 carries, 70 yards. On a day, like Javonte Williams had like 1.9 yards per carry. Jaleel McLaughlin was like 2.1 yards per carry. So, and then Isaac Rendo in your deeper leagues, he's just the backup 49ers running back behind Jordan Mason. And Trey Sermon, he's the backup Colts running back behind Jonathan Taylor. And then Kamani Vidal, seeing him dropped in places, I would just get ahead of this and stash him if I need a running back. J.K. Dobbins was inefficient this past weekend, so he could trend down. And Gus Edwards is also inefficient. He could be phased out. So, yeah, I think we see Kamani eventually. Wide receiver, Jaan Jennings. He just put up 40-plus points, and everyone else on the 49ers is hurt. Needs to be owned everywhere. I think he's just probably startable from the jump. He's not going to score 40 every week, but needs to be owned. Tutu Atwell, he was the Rams wide receiver 1 this past weekend. He's a deep threat. Plus, he's got speed on slants, and Stafford trusts him, so worth the stash. Allen Lazard, he's not going to catch a touchdown every week, but you could do worse if you need a flex player. Target totals of like 3, 4, and 9. So, yeah, it's a little bit fluky with him. The Jets play slow, but worth stashing. Ricky Pearsall, this is like the Drake May stash. Just getting ahead of him getting healthy and potentially, like, he could walk into a big workload. First, like, if he was healthy and not shot, maybe he would have had a game like Jaan Jennings this past weekend. So definitely worth stashing Ricky. in deeper leagues. And Trey Tucker, he saw 9 targets this past weekend. We kind of thought Tucker was just a deep A-dot guy, but if he's going to get some layup targets as well with his speed, that's really nice. And the Raiders bench Gardner Minshew. If they switch to Aiden O'Connell, my personal opinion there is that unlocks a new ceiling, where I think Minshew was like the higher floor quarterback, but Aiden O'Connell's a better pure passer of the football, which just unlocks a ceiling for all the skill players there. So I'd stash him, see how it works out there. Tight end, Tyler Conklin continues to run a lot of routes. He turned 6 targets into 5 catches for 93 yards. So, yeah, again, the Jets run slow, but you could do worse than Conklin. Cole Kmet, he's been more involved the past 2 weeks, possibly because Keenan Allen has missed games, or possibly because the Bears are realizing he should play more than Gerald Everett. Target totals of 5 and 11 for 130 yards and a touchdown. Definitely Kmet needs to be owned. Noah Fant. He was banged up to start the year, so kind of had a slow start, but he just had a 6 catch for 60-yard line in a game the Seahawks blew the Dolphins out. The Seahawks are one of the few teams actually throwing the football a lot, so that makes pass catchers on their team appealing. So I would definitely stash Fant. Like, I'd rather probably play Fant than like Hunter Henry. Eric Saubert, he's George Kittle's backup, so depending how serious that is, I think he's worth stashing. Only had like two catches for 40 yards. Has a decent RAS profile, raw athletic score. So yeah, I'd stash him if I need to. Defense. The Vikings defense, man, they just seem legit good. So defense, you can do it like you can either stream a defense each week, or you could just kind of stash a good defense and live with the highs and lows. The Vikings are trending towards one of those defenses you just stash and play regardless of matchup. Bills, another defense that just seems legit good. What they're doing this without Matt Milano, all-pro linebacker, Teron Johnson, all-pro slot corner, Terrell Bernard, their second best linebacker. They don't have Cole Bishop, their second round safety, on the field yet. So the Bills' upcoming schedule is they play the Ravens, they play the Texans, they play the Jets, they might have the Chiefs in there. So I could see people dropping the Bills' defense because of these matchups. And if you have a decent record or whatever, I would just stash them, and maybe I would just play them. Like against the Ravens, I'd definitely play them. Against the Texans, I think I'd play them. So yeah, the Bills defense, they should be out there in some leagues, and I would just pick them up. The Titans, they get the Dolphins this week. This is more of a streamer. Dolphins, pass happy team. That leads to turnovers, so definitely worth streaming this week. The Saints, another unit that just might be legitimately good. They got some turnovers against the Eagles. They get Kirk Cousins next, so definitely think the Saints are viable. And then the Bears, our last defense that is just legitimately a good unit. They shouldn't be available on waivers. When you're deciding on, like, let's say you have your choice of Vikings, Bills, Bears, I would definitely look at the playoff schedule for these teams, the fantasy playoffs, that is, when making my decision as far as which defense I want to stash. So, for example, the Bills play Detroit, New England, and the Jets. I would say they have like 2 decent spots there. The Patriots spot is awesome. The Jets spot is maybe okay, and the Lions spot's not so good. The Vikings schedule, and this especially applies to your like FFPC leagues where there's a sprint portion. They get the Packers. Don't love that one. Seahawks. That one's okay. Seahawks are going to pass a lot. Could have turnovers. And then Bears. That one could be good or bad depending on how Caleb develops. The Saints. They get the Raiders. Smash. Commanders. Pretty good. And then Packers not so good. So kind of choose your own adventure there. I'll be back tomorrow with Davis. Gonna keep this video short today, simply for just keep it to waivers. Meant to say week 4 here. This is the week 4 waiver wire. I do this every week. Yeah, it's my girlfriend's birthday, so gonna go celebrate her. Enjoy the week. Peace.